What happens when you quarrel in front of a devil? Other devils might find it entertaining, but Moguro Fukuzo couldn't bear to see a couple fight like this, so he decided to satisfy both their desires at the same time. That way, both could live happily ever after. Suda had loved visiting convenience stores since he was a child. In middle age, he shifted his focus to the food sections in malls, but his wife cooked every day at home. She would get extremely angry if he ate bento instead of her cooking, so he often snuck food outside. Moguro Fukuzo thought Suda looked too pitiful while eating. As a kind-hearted, helpful devil, he just had to help. First, he took Suda on a tour of a food court, then acted as his bag-carrying servant. After satisfying Suda's shopping urge, he took him to a secret hideout. He lent this place to Suda for free, no strings attached. The two quickly became good friends, but after eating and drinking his fill outside, Suda had no appetite at home. He had to lie and say he was sick. After that, he visited the secret hideout every few days. Moguro Fukuzo would bring fine wine, and the two would chat about life over food and drink. As a result, Suda had even less appetite at home. His wife was confused why wasn't he eating but still gaining weight. Suda hastily explained that he had been constipated lately. He also realized he had been eating too much outside these days, so he decided to eat less in the future. Just then, the doorbell rang. His wife had been following him. She suddenly rushed forward fiercely, scolding Suda harshly. Moguro Fukuzo appeared at that moment too. He explained that Suda hadn't been unfaithful. There was nothing but food in this house. Suda's only hobby was just buying some food. He thought this would calm his wife down, but unexpectedly, she got even angrier. She felt that all the hard work she put into cooking every day was meaningless. Just as Suda was about to be strangled, Moguro Fukuzo interrupted them. He resolved to satisfy both parties' desires. This video shows you just how awesome it is to ditch your normal life. Just experience the life of a homeless person and you'll understand. Tempted by a bottle of good alcohol, Yuta moved into a bridge underpass straight away. Though shabby, it's fully equipped, perfect for abandoning normal life. A bearded man brought a stack of newspapers, which would keep them warm against the cold. Surprisingly, this stuff is actually pretty warm. The next day, the company was bustling with work, while Yuta was living it up leisurely. He even lit up a high-end foreign cigarette, but he soon realized something was off. A homeless person should be lying down to look the part. When hungry, they just wander into a mall for free samples. Nothing tastes better than free food. If the urge to drink struck, they'd collect bottles on the street, then mix all kinds of leftover alcohol together. Naturally, such a treat should be enjoyed while watching a movie. They went to the inside of the movie screen, a VIP seat exclusive to the homeless. Yuta took the mixed alcohol, and he'd never tasted anything so amazing. This kind of life was absolutely incredible. Yuta couldn't help but exclaim, "Life without responsibilities is truly wonderful." But just then, Moguro Fukuzo actually wanted him to rejoin society. How could someone who's experienced slacking off want to work hard again? Yet he couldn't just abandon his wife and child at home. Moguro Fukuzo came up with a brilliant idea for Yuta. That night, their son was still studying hard for exams, and his wife was worried sick about household expenses. Then suddenly, she noticed her husband had returned. Yuta stretched out his hand in a strange way. Moguro Fukuzo slowly crawled out of the grave, all just to help the American in front of him. Once, John had been captivated by life in Japan, yet after living here for 5 years, he still struggled with culture shock. The hardest part of working here wasn't the office hours. It was the after-work colleague gatherings and drinking sessions that truly drained him at the end of the day. He wondered where they got the energy to party every single night. Although John's wife had moved to Japan a few years ago, he still struggled to integrate into Japanese society. Learning of John's troubles, Moguro Fukuzo decided to help him fully integrate into Japan. As the saying goes, when in Rome, do as the Romans do. From then on, John would have to obey Moguro Fukuzo's arrangements completely. There were also a few key points to remember. Japanese people aren't good at flattering others, but they must show absolute deference to their bosses. Yet when the boss isn't around, you need to gossip about superiors with your colleagues. This is precisely the first step to becoming friends with them. Additionally, you must never hesitate or drag your feet when drinking. Returning home to his angry yet gentle wife, John explained that he was diligently learning Japanese culture so that she could integrate here sooner. So the next day, Moguro Fukuzo took John to a hostess club. As a handsome foreigner, John didn't even have to make a move before two hostesses were already eager to approach him. The feeling of being pursued by both made John experience the beauty of Japanese life for the first time. Even though he was severely scolded by his wife when he got home, John still followed Moguro Fukuzo to the third challenge, gambling all night without returning home. Although John won a lot of money, he didn't feel the slightest bit of joy. His relationship with his colleagues was improving, but his wife was on the verge of divorcing him. Yet under Moguro Fukuzo's training, John had no way to turn back. Now, he can only become more Japanese than the Japanese themselves. Moguro Fukuzo really went too far this time. Honest Yuta just wanted to enjoy a quiet drink, but Moguro directly hired a geisha, and he ordered 2 of them. He even summoned the top courtesan of the inn. Yet Yuta wasn't happy at all, because the landlady looked exactly like his wife. If his wife found out he'd been to an inn like this, the consequences would be unthinkable. Thankfully, they only looked alike, nothing more. Moguro Fukuzo had to ask the top courtesan to attend to Yuta. Sure enough, drinking with a beautiful woman was far more enjoyable, and the geisha was very polite. Her graceful demeanor and soft voice were incredibly charming. Yuta gradually got carried away. This was the kind of pleasure he'd been craving, but as people get older, their alcohol tolerance declines. Yuta passed out after just a few drinks. When he woke up, he felt deeply regretful. Due to family commitments, Yuta had never known any woman other than his wife. An experience like this was completely new to him. Seeing his prey take the bait, Moguro Fukuzo struck quickly. Late at night, the top courtesan came alone. Tonight, she belonged solely to Yuta. Time flew by under the influence of alcohol. When Yuta woke up again, he realized last night hadn't been a dream. But the truth was more cruel than any nightmare. The person drinking with him last night was actually the boss's wife, and the cost of her companionship was a staggering 1 million yen. A man felt a sudden chill around his crotch while eating. He noticed a pair of eyes staring at him from below, and the peeper was none other than Moguro Fukuzo. He was drawn to the man's overwhelming desires. Yuta was going to a party tomorrow, but he had to bring a girl as his date to get in. Although he bragged to his colleagues about being a ladies' man, it was all just stuff he'd seen on TV. So Yuta was now filled with an intense longing for a girl. Moguro Fukuzo decided to grant his desire. He helped Yuta rent a girlfriend, and someone introduced by the devil was surely reliable. The girl arrived right on time. At the hotel, his colleagues were certain Yuta wouldn't show up, since no girl would ever agree to go with him. But they were wrong. In fact, everyone's jaws dropped the next second. The girl Moguro Fukuzo introduced was in a league of her own, way more stunning than anyone else. His colleagues were green with envy, practically drooling, and the girl's affectionate gestures made Yuta the center of attention. Later, the two went to an amusement park. They acted just like a real couple. The only pity was that Yuta's attempt to kiss her was interrupted. After that, Yuta thought about the girl every day. Driven by desire, he went to see Moguro Fukuzo again, saying he wanted to meet the girl once more. Originally, this kind of request wasn't allowed, but after Yuta begged repeatedly, Moguro Fukuzo agreed to his condition. However, this time Yuta had to invite her himself. Yuta agreed without hesitation, but he soon regretted it. This time, the girl brought her agent along. They wanted to have a serious talk about the rental fees. Just how extravagant were the wealthy in the 90s? You might think this is some high-end club, but it's actually just a KTV. Whether it's upbeat rock music, elegant classical music, or nostalgic childhood tunes, they have it all here. And this spacious, luxurious room is just a waiting area. Before singing, guests change into luxurious gowns, then get touch-ups from exclusive makeup artists. Of course, a live audience is a must. Even the devil dresses in drag to liven things up. Kenta felt a bit nervous seeing so many people. Moguro Fukuzo quickly assured him the audience was all holograms, just 3D projections. As the music started, the entire audience erupted in cheers. With the sound engineer's intro, Kenta immediately got into the zone. Moguro Fukuzo had already prepared earplugs in advance. The concert lasted until midnight. When Kenta woke up, it was already morning. He couldn't forget the wonderful feeling from the night before, the flowers specially delivered by beautiful women, and the prolonged applause from the audience. Seeing how much Kenta loved it, Moguro Fukuzo gave him a membership card to the KTV. This meant free singing here forever, but with one condition: no bringing other people. From then on, Kenta disappeared right after work. His colleagues thought he'd given up on himself because he sang so badly, but what they didn't know was, Kenta had outgrown his usual KTV spots. He was obsessed with the audience's cheers, completely losing himself in it. Later, his colleagues noticed something was off. When they heard about the luxurious KTV, they begged Kenta to take them, but it was members only. No one else could get in. However, one colleague resorted to reverse psychology. Unwilling to be doubted, Kenta decided to take his colleagues to see the place. But just as he was about to get a high-end makeup look, Moguro Fukuzo suddenly appeared. Kenta was startled. He explained that he preferred real audiences over projections, but that wasn't an excuse for breaking his promise. Since Kenta loved real audiences so much, Moguro Fukuzo decided to fulfill his wish completely. Kenta sang passionately as usual, but this time, the audience didn't seem impressed at all. This raccoon dog can absorb fat from your body. Every day, the man finds his belly getting smaller by a circle. Meanwhile, the raccoon dog's belly grows fatter and fatter. Yuta is a second-tier actor, but he struggles with weight management. One day, his agency president brings good news. A top celebrity wants to co-star with Yuta in a drama. However, the celebrity hates fat people extremely and refuses to interact with anyone with a waist circumference over 75 centimeters. So Yuta has no choice but to lose weight, but only after eating his favorite desserts first. Just then, Moguro Fukuzo suddenly appears and snatches the desserts. When Yuta chases after him, Moguro Fukuzo has already eaten all the desserts. As compensation, he gives Yuta a raccoon dog figurine. As long as Yuta restrains himself from eating his favorite foods and prays devoutly to this raccoon dog, it will help absorb his fat. The next day, after working out, Yuta feels empty in his stomach, but to get a perfect figure, he must restrain himself. Later, he goes to his favorite dessert shop. Just as he can't help but want to buy some, Moguro Fukuzo suddenly appears appears to remind him. Eating just one dessert will make all his efforts go down the drain, so Yuta endures. When he gets home, he finds the raccoon dog's belly has grown much bigger, while his own belly has shrunk by a circle. The president is shocked. Truly a professional actor. He lost more than 5 kilograms in just a few days. Now they can cooperate with the top celebrity. Yuta says he will continue to lose weight, and the president, overjoyed, gives him a 100,000 yen bonus. After work, Yuta goes to the dessert shop again. He looks at the desserts with longing. Just as the clerk asks if he wants his usual order, Yuta flees in a hurry. He must succeed in losing weight before the performance. This restraint works wonders. The raccoon dog absorbs nearly another 5 kilograms of fat. Soon, the day of the performance arrives. The top celebrity is very satisfied with Yuta. Tall, handsome, and with a great figure. The president hurries to introduce him, but the celebrity, who hates fat people, tells Yuta not to talk to her. Yuta is grateful for the raccoon dog's help. This is his golden chance to become famous. Just before the stage play starts, Yuta receives a gift. When he opens it, he finds it's full of his favorite desserts. After hesitating for a moment, Yuta thinks eating just 1 or 2 won't hurt. He has worked so hard so far. A little indulgence should be okay. But after just 1 bite, he can no longer restrain himself. He gobbles down more than half of the desserts in the box. At this moment, Moguro Fukuzo reminds him he's broken the agreement. Lord Raccoon Dog is angry, and the consequences will be severe. Yuta angrily chases Moguro Fukuzo out of the room. So what if he ate a few desserts? He then checks his belly and finds no change. But during the stage play, Yuta suddenly feels his clothes getting tighter and tighter. As all the buttons pop off, his big belly is completely exposed. The top celebrity is shocked and instinctively pushes him off the stage. This man was doing online dating in the 1990s. Back then, there were dedicated company hotlines that let people leave messages, and then you just had to find someone you liked from them. Ida spent over 100,000 yen on phone bills every month because he was inarticulate in real life. On the subway, a girl mistook him for a pervert. The stares from everyone around left Ida unable to even deny it. Fortunately, Moguro Fukuzo pretended to be a policeman and helped him out. After learning about Ida's hobby, Moguro Fukuzo left him a phone number. On this line, he could not only chat with girls, but even didn't have to pay the phone bill. That night, Ida dialed the number. The girl on the other end said she really liked his personality, which moved Ida immensely. He was very grateful for Moguro Fukuzo's help. Moguro Fukuzo only had one request: the two should never meet in person. Ida agreed without hesitation. After all, if he met her face to face, he would definitely be too shy to speak. Later, Ida chatted late every day. This kind of life led to him being fired from his company. But Ida didn't care at all. Now he only cared about the girl and nothing else. The two started making plans to meet. Moguro Fukuzo's warning was completely ignored. The girl would wear a white rose on her chest and meet him at the Hachiko statue. All Ida had to do was wait there with a red rose. At that moment, a beautiful woman noticed him. Ida was about to make a move, but realized she wasn't the one, and the only other person at the scene wearing a white rose was a middle-aged woman with thick lips. Such a small teacup actually costs 180,000 yen. After the woman walks away disappointed, someone actually buys the teacup and resells it to her for 50 yen. Tina isn't drawn to the artwork itself. It's because it's a work by her first love. The two fell in love 20 years ago, but how could her parents approve of this poor ceramic artist? In the end, Tina married a wealthy man. However, many years later, that ceramic artist became famous. After returning home, her daughter runs out in a hurry. Tina prepares a table of delicious food, but it's already 9 p.m. and neither her husband nor daughter has come back. Her husband calls, but he's so drunk he's rambling incoherently. Tina can't help but wonder, would life have been better if she'd stayed with her first love? Moguro Fukuzo finds Tina and persuades her to meet her first love again. Tina angrily refuses him, but the doorbell rings again. This time, it's actually the police at the door. Seeing her daughter looking so embarrassed, Tina apologizes repeatedly, but her daughter runs straight back to her room and doesn't respond no matter how hard Tina knocks. Just then, her husband comes home too. Tina tells him about their daughter, but all she gets in return is his blame. She can't even stand up for herself. It's as if everything is her fault. Tina goes out to the street to clear her head. By chance, she runs into her first love. The two start talking, and before long, they get intimate, but they're soon caught red-handed. Tina flees in shame. Then, under Moguro Fukuzo's persuasion, Tina decides to elope with her first love. The two board a train to another city. The next day, Tina's daughter realizes her mistake and prepares to apologize to her mother. As for her husband, he'd just gotten a promotion the previous day, which is why he drank too much and lost his temper, and the ceramic artist's wife had inherited all his wealth. This man lives and eats out of his car, yet he is the luckiest man in all of Sakura City, simply because he survived twice after being aided by Moguro Fukuzo, and ultimately lived through the great human extinction, becoming the sole surviving human. Not long ago, after enduring countless hardships, Kenta finally passed his driver's license exam. To celebrate, Kenta splurged on an antique car. After that, he even ate, slept, and lived out of the car. Seeing Kenta so blissfully content, Moguro Fukuzo made an appearance. Because of Moguro Fukuzo's previous assistance had led Kenta to drive without a license license and under the influence. Though he was now fine, he can't bring himself to go home. That's why he confines himself to living in his car. The cramped car feels safer than home. But this can't be a permanent solution. Kenta's 38-year-old clunker finally gave up the ghost. With nowhere to sleep, Kenta drifted the streets. Moguro Fukuzo seized the chance to bring Kenta to a capsule hotel. The place was filled with homeless people like Kenta. The capsules offered every amenity imaginable. It was a place of complete peace, entirely Kenta's own. But outside the capsule, his roommate snores like a tractor. No restful sleep means Kenta can't focus at work. He even falls asleep while using the restroom. Seeing Kenta penniless and homeless, the kind-hearted Moguro Fukuzo decides to find him a safe place. Inside an abandoned building, where various egg-shaped devices exist. Seeing the green liquid inside, Kenta felt a chill run down his spine. And this was the peace of mind capsule Moguro Fukuzo had prepared for Kenta. The liquid inside could make a person completely relax. Lying within feels like drifting through space for centuries. And that's exactly what happens in reality. When he awoke, he was stunned to discover his surroundings had become a wasteland. A scene straight out of the apocalypse. As early as last century in Japan, housing had already become a mountain-crushing man. Due to Japan's narrow land area, pigeon coops were everywhere. A residence with an independent courtyard became the aspiration of most people. Because of family reasons, Shoyuta had no choice but to look for a spacious place to live. But now housing prices were soaring rapidly. An affordable and suitable house might be impossible to find in a lifetime. After hearing this, the kind-hearted Moguro Fukuzo resolutely chose to help Shoyuta. After all, even a devil occasionally wants to do a good deed. The first apartment they visited shocked Shoyuta. Such a spacious house only cost 20 million yen. But when he opened the door, what came into view was a residence that required a ladder to enter and exit. Feeling the violent wind howling over the roof, the entire house seemed to be on the verge of collapsing. Moguro Fukuzo then took Shoyuta to a cemetery. Not only was the environment good here, but there were countless neighbors in the middle of the night. Besides that, there was a top-floor house with a view of the entire city. But after looking around, none of them were suitable for Shoyuta. This made him doubt life even more. Why do rich people worry about having more money than they can spend, while he couldn't even give his family a home? Listening to his family's complaints, Shoyuta visited an exquisitely decorated house. Everything here was exactly what he had dreamed of. Fortunately, Moguro Fukuzo hadn't given up on helping Shoyuta. He found an identical house to this one, and Shoyuta could get it for free, just by test living for a period of time. How could there be such a good deal? Shoyuta couldn't believe it, but he quickly brought his wife and children here. Passing through a long tunnel, a spacious living room appeared. Everything in front of them made his wife and children disbelief. Not only was the sea right outside the window, but the kitchen was also extremely spacious. But could everything really be this good? These are definitely the most annoying people around you. They envy others' happiness and arbitrarily abuse their neighbors' beloved pets. Yet such disputes aren't considered serious evils. Even calling the police won't do much about them. So maybe having a meddlesome devil in the world isn't such a bad thing. This man kept a parrot because he was lonely. Every day, he recorded everything about the parrot like a father. But keeping pets was prohibited in this apartment. After learning about it, his neighbor Takumi reported him to the landlord. When Ida came home from work, his beloved parrot was gone. Being missing is often more painful than being released or passing away. The former eases worries because the outcome isn't bad, and the latter brings peace as he can at least bury it. But in this case, only anxiety remains. Moguro Fukuzo told Ida what happened during the day, but because he was in the wrong, Ida had to swallow his anger. Moguro Fukuzo prepared a new pet, a eucalyptus tree that could communicate with humans spiritually. Moreover, if it's a plant, it wouldn't violate the rules. Soon, the eucalyptus sprouted. He named it Yuka. After Ida took careful care of it for some time, Yuka grew quickly. Ida poured all the love he had for the parrot into Yuka, watching it grow from a tiny sprout to its current state. This sense of accomplishment filled Ida with excitement. But Takumi next door heard about it again. The next day, Ida's eucalyptus series paintings were recognized by a publishing house. This story would be adapted into an anime, and it was all thanks to Moguro Fukuzo. Meanwhile, Takumi took the landlord to look for Ida's new pet, but after searching for a long time, they found no small animals. After the landlord left, Takumi discovered Yuka. He showed an evil smile. When Ida got home, Yuka had been reduced to broken branches and withered leaves. Ida begged Moguro Fukuzo to save Yuka. As Moguro Fukuzo unleashed his magic, Yuka grew rapidly, soon surpassing its original size. Branches gradually pierced through the room and appeared around Takumi. Plants can hold grudges too. And just like that, Takumi was hung from a telephone pole. This man feels nauseous at the sight of normal food, but he finds this rotten garbage quite appealing, simply because it comes from high-end restaurants. Even when tossed into the trash heap, it couldn't mask their alluring scent. Though Shota usually lived frugally, he at least eats decently. Until the day he met Moguro Fukuzo. Shota has a live-in girlfriend. They were working hard to hold their wedding at a 3-star hotel. The luxurious dinner at the hotel was what Shota looked forward to most. Moguro Fukuzo says he can make his wish come true early. The two arrive at a 5-star hotel, where the most exquisite beauties were gathered. Amidst the elegant strains of a violin, a plate of French foie gras was served. served. Shota had never tasted such exquisite flavor. After he had finished his meal, Moguro Fukuzo presented him with a black card and reminded him he could dine here anytime. But such extravagance should be reserved for special occasions because the silver card doesn't come with unlimited visits. The next day, his usual lunch tasted awful, and the loving dinner his girlfriend made tasted bland. Shota couldn't stand the hunger in the middle of the night. He heads to the hotel and starts gorging himself. The luxurious taste leaves him craving more. Over the next few days, Shota kept using business dinners as an excuse not to go home, then savored the delicacies alone. Even Moguro Fukuzo's final warning was completely ignored by him. His daily late returns made his girlfriend furious. The dinner she worked so hard to prepare went untouched. Shota promised his girlfriend he'd come home early tomorrow. The next day, Shota was starving, but he has no interest in the plain home-cooked meal. After going hungry all day, Shota couldn't hold back any longer, but the black card suddenly became invalid. This place operates on a membership system, so you have to deposit 1 million yen upfront to get a card and dine here. Shota snatched the wedding funds from his girlfriend. He's completely stopped thinking about the future. Now only delicious food matters most. At that moment, Moguro Fukuzo stopped Shota. He had a way to eat delicious food for free. How miserable can a married middle-aged man be? Ishida stays at the company every night until late, and after being chased away by security guards, he goes to a tea house. The waiter greets him, but the boss directly tells him there are no seats left. After all, no shop would welcome a customer who only orders one coffee and lingers around. Ishida has to go to a convenience store to read the newspaper. However, the clerk comes to chase him away because Ishida doesn't buy anything, yet stands there for hours. The clerk suspects he's a spy hired by a rival store. Fortunately, Moguro Fukuzo appears just in time to bail him out. The two get to know each other because of this. It turns out Ishida bought an old house 8 years ago, but all the rooms are occupied by his children. Even the dog has its own kennel, but he himself can only sleep in the closet. Moreover, if he turns on the TV, it will disturb his son who's preparing for exams. His wife also keeps complaining that his salary is too low, so Ishida doesn't even have money to buy a drink. Just killing time every day is already a struggle. Moguro Fukuzo decides to lend Ishida an apartment. It's vacant while his friend is on a business trip, but there's one requirement. He must not bring any women into this room. After that, Ishida leaves work on time every day, cooks a leisurely dinner, watches his favorite TV shows, and lives the wonderful life he had when he was single. At this moment, a girl rushes into the room. Ishida remembers Moguro Fukuzo's warning, but the woman says she's being followed by hooligans. He feels too embarrassed to chase her away. On Sunday, Ishida also wants to go to that leisurely apartment. His daughter says, "Could dad be having an affair?" His son decides to follow him to check. Ishida prepares to make a hearty breakfast. When the woman from last night comes to thank him, she brings breakfast and even offers to wash Ishida's clothes. This scene is exactly seen by his son. When he gets home, Ishida is questioned by his wife, and the two have a big fight. Ishida wants to hide in the new apartment, only to find that the original owner has already returned. He accuses Moguro Fukuzo of deliberately setting him up, but how can a The man was already 49 years old, but under the effect of the mushroom spirit wine, can still fight a beautiful woman for 300 rounds. It is said that after the age of 50, all physical indicators of men will decline. And just a few days ago, Kenta was diagnosed with early-stage liver cirrhosis. According to the doctor's advice, Kenta had to quit drinking and avoid staying up late. Once upon a time, Kenta lived a wild nightlife every night. Now he couldn't even stay up late watching TV at home. He found it hard to accept this contrast. Seeing Kenta's pitiful look, Moguro Fukuzo took out a bottle of strange wine. It was made from medicinal herbs collected deep in the mountains. As long as he took some every day, Kenta could return to his former state. But at the same time, he could only take one bottle per month. With the idea of giving it a try, Kenta took a sip during a drinking party with clients. Unexpectedly, the effect was so strong. He not only drank the clients under the table, but also could play golf again, which he had been too weak for before. He even played mahjong all night without feeling the slightest fatigue. When he got home late at night, he felt a little sleepy facing his nagging wife. But after taking a sip of the wine, Kenta became energetic again. He also gained the confidence to go out and have fun late at night, because just one sip of wine could refresh his tired body completely. But unrestrained drinking made Kenta finish the last drop soon. However, there was still a long time before the end of the month. Moguro Fukuzo would never give him the wine in advance. Helpless, Kenta came up with the idea of going to the mountains to find mushrooms. Desire always gives people great motivation. With Kenta's perseverance, he finally found a mushroom similar to the one in the mushroom wine. But would reality be as he wished? On the other side, his wife had good news. It turned out that Kenta's liver cirrhosis was a misdiagnosis by the doctor, but his wife and daughter chose to hide it because they didn't want Kenta to ruin his health from overworking. But was Kenta really worth it? This fat man can fulfill all your desires, but he never charges any fees because the customer's satisfaction is the best reward. Yamato, who just finished work, was about to take a lunch break, but his senior wanted to take him to a great place. On the second basement floor of the company, there were actually countless bars and clubs. Among them was a shop where you could drink during the day, named Daydream. The girls inside were very enthusiastic. The two planned to have a drink and then go back to work. But among the girls, there was someone with a completely different vibe. The senior wanted Yamato to treat them, but the beautiful girl stopped him. However, to show off in front of the beauty, Yamato took the initiative to pay the bill. At that moment, a smiling face suddenly appeared. The man's name was Moguro Fukuzo. He wanted to make friends with the two of them, so he treated them to this meal. With the mood set, the senior planned to have a light drink, and Yamato couldn't refuse the beauty's invitation either. Happy times always pass quickly. Soon it was time to go back to work. The two left in a hurry. In the afternoon, Yamato was distracted. The spreadsheets he made were full of the beauty's name. In the evening, Yamato left work exactly on time. He just wanted to get back to Daydream quickly, but all the women inside had turned into ugly ones. While fleeing, Yamato met Moguro Fukuzo. From him, he learned that Daydream was only a great place to go during the day. At night, it was just an ordinary bar. The next day, Yamato kept checking the time. The senior saw through his little thought. The two went to Daydream again. This time, Moguro Fukuzo thought drinking non-alcoholic drinks here was boring. He suggested drinking something with a higher alcohol content. After drinking, Yamato felt extremely happy, but it was almost time to go to work. But how could the beauties let him leave? Moguro Fukuzo had completely taken control of their desires. In the end, they actually spent nearly 500,000 yen. Yamato was extremely shocked. He only had 10,000 yen with him, so he had to put the rest on credit. When they returned to the company, it was already night. Their boss shouted at the two drunk men and fired them on the spot. This guy is way too bold. He started punching and kicking the devil right after meeting him. He angered Moguro Fukuzo in less than a minute and was directly thrown into the water. Shoyuta was under a lot of pressure lately. Every day, he was not only criticized by his boss, but also had to endure difficult customers. So when he drank, he would erupt with pent-up emotions, which caused a lot of trouble for his colleagues. Slowly, his colleagues stopped inviting him when they went drinking. This made Shoyuta even angrier. He would kick every dog he saw on the street. Moguro Fukuzo filmed all his actions. Drunk Shoyuta had extremely poor manners. Everything annoyed him, and he seriously disturbed other customers. As a result, he was thrown out directly. He was so ashamed of his drunken rampage. This made Shoyuta determined to quit drinking, but Moguro Fukuzo tried his best to stop him. Drinking was Shuta's best way to relieve stress. Quitting might make him sick or depressed, and Moguro Fukuzo had a great way to stop him from rampaging when drunk. The next day, Shoyuta was harassed by a customer again. He went to the rooftop to vent his frustration. This was the grin and bear it bag Moguro Fukuzo gave him. After Shoyuta took his frustration out on the bag, he really felt refreshed. Shoyuta sincerely apologized to his colleagues and invited everyone for a drink. This time, Shoyuta didn't go on a drunken rampage. All his colleagues were impressed by his change, but then Shoyuta walked into the bathroom. He cursed his colleagues at the top of his lungs while holding the bag, because these people drank like there was no tomorrow just because he was treating. After the party, Shoyuta took out the bag to thank it, but an alcoholic suddenly appeared in front of him. During their struggle over the bag, they opened the bag's opening. There's a lot of foul language coming from inside. This made the alcoholic furious. He directly pushed Shoyuta down the stairs. Sneech's life as an adult is far from happy. Just because he set his alarm too early, his wife chews him out severely. Even his son loses his temper at him. This made Sneech feel that he only has a house, not a real family at all. He just lives with people called wife and son. Moguro Fukuzo feels sorry for Sneech's situation, deciding to help him get a new family. But Sneech thinks they've lived together for so long, and he's still a bit reluctant, so he refuses Moguro Fukuzo. The next day, when Sneech passes a blood donation center, he sees a cute little girl promoting blood donation. He decides to donate blood. The nurse in charge of drawing blood is very beautiful, and her movements are gentle. Sneech blushes instantly. If only his wife were so gentle. That night, Sneech buys a gift, hoping to ease the tension with his family. However, his wife doesn't appreciate it at all. His son also yells at him. Taking the chance, his wife fans the flames, saying Sneech is going to find another woman. His son believes her and tells Sneech to apologize. Sneech snaps suddenly, throws the gift away, and leaves the house. Moguro Fukuzo appears at this moment, again offering to introduce him to a new family. This time, Sneech doesn't refuse. He follows Moguro Fukuzo to a villa. When he opens the door, the nurse who drew his blood earlier calls him husband. Before Sneech can react, the little girl who promoted blood donation during the day rushes over and calls him dad. This is exactly the family Sneech has always dreamed of. Tears of joy stream down his face instantly. At the same time, the mother and son feel they've gone a bit too far. Sneech's wife starts to worry about him, and his son begins to blame his mother. Just then, someone knocks at the door. It's Moguro Fukuzo. He takes the mother and son to the villa. Following the light, they find Sneech, but the scene before them leaves them in disbelief. The man never imagined that after a sudden train break, that he would have an intimate encounter with his longtime crush. Sneech quickly apologized, but the woman didn't care at all. She didn't even want to reply. In his panic, Sneech accidentally stepped on the devil's foot. Moguro Fukuzo accepted his apology, offering to act as a matchmaker to introduce the two. He even guaranteed they would walk down the aisle together. Sneech said he couldn't even reach her shoulders if he jumped, and a stunning beauty like her could never fall for someone short, poor, and plain like him. Moguro Fukuzo disagreed, explaining that women are usually interested in men who like them. Sneech asked if Moguro Fukuzo was related to the beauty, but Moguro Fukuzo replied that he didn't know her at all. This made Sneech feel like he was being mocked. However, after a full day of work, Sneech started to regret it. What if Moguro Fukuzo was telling the truth? He really liked that beautiful woman. Just then, a colleague told Sneech there was a visitor, and it was Moguro Fukuzo. Somehow, he had already learned of Sneech's regret, and was eager to act as the matchmaker. Before leaving, he told Sneech to look forward to tomorrow. But the next day, when Sneech mustered up the courage to greet the beauty, she completely ignored him, and even turned around and left. This made Sneech very angry. It was all Moguro Fukuzo's fault for making him embarrassed. Unexpectedly, a hand suddenly patted his shoulder. Sneech turned around, wanting to complain about what had just happened, but Moguro Fukuzo accurately recited all the beauty's information. He explained that her behavior that morning was just shyness. After all, there were so many people at the station, so for a better date, the beauty would come to Sneech's apartment to meet him that night. Sneech was skeptical, but he chose to trust Moguro Fukuzo one more time. However, the last thing Moguro Fukuzo said was strange. Why did he specifically remind him not to be tempted by her looks? Otherwise the beauty would get hurt? In response, Sneech firmly replied, "I really like her. It's not just because of her appearance. Since he worked at a bank, he could tell what kind of person someone was just by looking into their eyes. He had made eye contact with the beauty every day on the tram. She was definitely the lady he admired." At that moment, the doorbell rang. The beauty had actually come to his apartment, wearing makeup and bringing a gift. Sneech hurriedly prepared black tea and snacks. He wanted to start with small talk, but the beauty got straight to the point. She wanted to get married. She asked if Sneech was willing. In response, Sneech poured out his heartfelt confession. Unexpectedly, the beauty was very straightforward. She slowly took off her mask. Sneech covered his eyes, but he couldn't help but peek. To his surprise, he saw an extremely beautiful face. Looking at her perfect figure and beautiful face, Sneech felt like he had reached the peak of his life. But in the next second, he came crashing down, because the beauty's face was actually the result of plastic surgery, and the operation had failed. Just because he has a handsome face, women all throw themselves at him. Even his male colleagues are no exception. Faced with this situation, Yoshida feels extremely troubled. If it weren't for his loving wife at home, he would definitely have become a playboy tonight. Yoshida says goodbye to his colleagues and heads home, but halfway there, his face starts to look off. He hides alone in an alley and throws up. It turns out Yoshida had been faking everything earlier. At this moment, a man with a smile on his face walks over. Yoshida doesn't want anyone to see him like this, but he can no longer stand. Moguro Fukuzo helps him out of the alley. The two go to a spring. Under the influence of alcohol, Yoshida pours out his troubles to Moguro Fukuzo. It turns out, because of his looks, people see Yoshida as a reliable person. He has lived his whole life meeting others' expectations of him. To live up to the hopes of those around him, he works desperately hard, and it has been exhausting. Yet being relied on like this by others has become a heavy burden. He was once a child too. He also wanted someone he could act coquettishly with. Moguro Fukuzo promises to introduce him to someone he can feel at ease being vulnerable with, and won't charge any fee. The next day, Moguro Fukuzo finds Yoshida again, wanting to talk about their agreement from the night before. But Yoshida says those were just drunk words, and tells Moguro Fukuzo to leave quickly. Moguro Fukuzo doesn't pester him further. He only tells Yoshida to contact him if he needs help. One day, while Yoshida is at work, he gets a sudden call from home. His wife has quarreled with his mother over their child, and wants him to come back to take her side. Yoshida has long told them not to call him during work hours, but his wife keeps pestering him. Yoshida plans to handle it after work, but his wife insists he come back right now. Angrily, Yoshida hangs up the phone. Just then, a colleague runs over, saying Tamura from the sales department got into a car accident on a business trip, and tells him to go handle it. Yoshida is furious when he hears this. He's from the engineering department. What does this matter have to do with him? For the first time, Yoshida loses his temper in front of his colleagues. After work, he goes to a bar and has a few drinks. The bartender tries to comfort him, but Yoshida sees through her intentions at a glance. Later, he staggers down the street, drunk. Suddenly, a business card falls out of his pocket. It's Moguro Fukuzo's. So Yoshida calls Moguro Fukuzo. Moguro Fukuzo has already been waiting there for a long time. He has prepared everything for Yoshida. Following Moguro Fukuzo's instructions, Yoshida pushes open a heavy door. A glittering golden Buddha statue appears before him. Yoshida throws himself forward, losing himself in the Buddha's gentle aura. The next day, Moguro Fukuzo brings Yoshida's wife to see him. Presumably, Yoshida has already shown his true colors by now. Now, all you have to do is open the door, and you'll see your husband's real self, Moguro Fukuzo says. Driven by curiosity, the woman slowly opens the door, and sees a sight she will never forget for the rest of her life. This 36-year-old woman looks down on all men equally, except for foreigners, of course. So Haruna has saved her entire life savings to travel abroad once. But even the cheapest tour groups cost hundreds of thousands of yen to to start with. At that moment, Moguro Fukuzo struck up a conversation. Seeing his suspicious appearance, Haruna turned around and left quickly. However, Moguro Fukuzo said he had a very cheap travel deal, so Haruna immediately turned back to ask for details. Moguro Fukuzo introduced himself, saying he was a member of a social welfare company. This time, there was an overseas travel benefit, but to give the spot to someone who truly needed it, applicants had to go through a series of screenings. Haruna didn't care at all. She only cared about the cost of the trip. Moguro Fukuzo whispered that the price for a round-the-world trip was 50,000 yen. Haruna was shocked, immediately asking if he had missed a zero. Moguro Fukuzo explained that they did welfare work. It could even be free, but as a company, they just needed a symbolic payment for show. Haruna was very interested in this offer. She took the initiative to pay, trying to bribe her way into securing the spot in advance. Then she kept playing the victim during their conversation. Now she was 36 years old and still didn't have a boyfriend. Her parents kept urging her to marry. In fact, she had no interest in men at all. She just wanted to travel around the world and find her true self. That's why she had worked so hard to save money. After listening, Moguro Fukuzo thought she was a perfect fit. Later, Haruna had a sweet dream. In the dream, a group of foreign friends welcomed her arrival. Her colleagues saw her grinning foolishly, so they asked if something good had happened. Although Haruna replied no, anyone could tell she was acting strange. That night, Moguro Fukuzo wanted to discuss the trip, so he asked Haruna which country she wanted to visit. Haruna named several in one breath. At that moment, Moguro Fukuzo suddenly grabbed her shoulder. Haruna thought he was coveting her beauty and trying to demand sexual favors. However, what Moguro Fukuzo wanted to ask was, is your real purpose really overseas travel? Haruna still insisted on lying, but Moguro Fukuzo didn't see any desire in her eyes, so he directly used his devil's finger. After being hit, Haruna stopped pretending. Her real goal was to find a foreign boyfriend. Although she couldn't catch a wealthy man in Japan, maybe foreigners would like her type. If that didn't work, she would use all her savings over the years, using the power of money, to take a bunch of photos posing as a couple with foreign guys. Then she would send them to those who looked down on her, laughing at how blind they were for not seeing her beauty. The next day, everyone in the company knew Haruna was going abroad, and she had been selected by a social welfare company. The man stared at the scene in front of him in shock. His clothes slowly slipped off, and then his pants fell to the ground. To his surprise, it was his beloved dog fostered in the countryside. Matsumoto had been transferred to Tokyo for his excellent work performance, but he had to live in the company dormitory at the headquarters, where pets were not allowed, so he missed his dog Simba every day. Today, after returning home, Matsumoto saw a figure. Another man had broken into the dormitory. The man slowly stood up and turned around, finally taking off his hood under Matsumoto's shocked gaze. After being separated for so long, the master and his dog met again. They hugged excitedly. It turned out that Moguro had used hypnosis on Simba, allowing it to move like a normal human. This way, it could escape the dorm supervisor's inspection. After all, the two looked just like brothers. With Simba's company, Matsumoto felt extremely at ease. Even his boss was amazed by his diligence. However, although being in human form was convenient, Simba was still a dog at heart, so the hypnosis needed to be lifted when not necessary. Later, the two would watch TV together, living a very comfortable life. At that moment, Simba suddenly walked towards the door. The dorm supervisor was eavesdropping outside. Smelling the scent of a stranger, Simba couldn't help but bark. Seeing this, Matsumoto quickly acted to cover it up. After a flurry of activity, he finally opened the door before the supervisor. Now, only the disguised Simba was in the room. After searching around, the supervisor suddenly heard the sound from the TV. They narrowly escaped this time, but if this continued, they would be exposed sooner or later. So Matsumoto decided to keep Simba in human form, so even if the supervisor entered during the day, they wouldn't be discovered. But when Matsumoto returned home today, he found the room spotlessly clean. Simba quickly claimed he had done it himself. This shocked Matsumoto, and he praised Simba profusely. However, as they watched TV as usual, there was a knock on the door. To their surprise, it was Moguro who came this time. Matsumoto had broken the promise he made with him, so he would face the devil's punishment. After that, dog barks were frequently heard from the dormitory. The supervisor finally found out about it. Matsumoto stammered and begged for forgiveness, but rules were rules, and so the two sides are separated again. Watching Simba's departing figure, Matsumoto, though he's very sad, but life had to go on. He planned to take a bath to cheer himself up. His clothes were messily thrown outside the bathroom door, but strangely enough, the shadow outside the bathroom was in the shape of a dog. He is the second devil besides Moguro Fukuzo, but unlike Moguro Fukuzo, he possesses the ability to teach people skills. In today's society, learning has become a pressure for most children. Parents without wings always force their children to learn to fly. Shoyuta originally wanted his child to have a free and unrestrained childhood, but Moguro Fukuzo came looking for him. Although he knew his child was a fool who handed in blank papers for exams, Shoyuta believed that as long as his child was happy, it was enough. However, after returning home, the devil tutor invited by Moguro Fukuzo arrived. Unlike other tutors, Hayato was actually teaching the child how to play. Although this made his wife very dissatisfied, Shoyuta still approved of Hayato's teaching method. He only wanted to protect his son Yuto's childhood. But surprisingly, in just a few short days, Yuto not only made rapid progress in chess, but also improved by leaps and bounds in his academic performance. But in the face of the cold school exams, Moguro Fukuzo expressed great disdain. With plenty of time, children should be allowed to develop their talents more. Unexpectedly, in just 2.5 weeks, teacher Hayato announced Yuto's graduation. Looking at the young Yuto, even the devil felt excited. Time quickly passed to the weekend. Shoyuta invited friends to play mahjong, but they were one person short. At this moment, Yuto took the initiative to play a few rounds. At first, Yuto kept winning hands, making the three think it was just a beginner's luck. But after he kept winning against all three repeatedly, Yuto's terrifying skills made Shoyuta feel terrified. Then one night, Shoyuta received news that Yuto hadn't been to school for days, so he hurried out to look for him. But finding someone in such a big city was like looking for a needle in a haystack. Fortunately, he ran into Moguro Fukuzo at this time. Following the others' instructions, Shoyuta came to a mahjong parlor. But when he saw the scene in front of him clearly, Shoyuta showed an expression of disbelief. Other barbers work for money, but Big G's haircuts are deadly. As the razor falls, a sudden explosion booms. In the next second, Big G is sent flying. The shop manager yells, "You loser who can't even shave a balloon. Next time, practice on real customers." Just then, a new customer walks in. Everyone stares at this poor unlucky soul. It's none other than Moguro Fukuzo. The shop manager swallows nervously. Little does Moguro Fukuzo know what's coming. Big G closes his eyes and goes for it. One slash, and Moguro Fukuzo's nose falls off instantly. Chaos breaks out in the shop, but Moguro Fukuzo is actually unharmed. It's just a prank with a fake nose. Big G breathes a sigh of relief and faints on the spot. As compensation for the prank, Moguro Fukuzo decides to grant him one wish. Big G rolls up his pants. It turns out he's been practicing on his own shins. If he messes up a customer like this, he'll be ruined. Moguro Fukuzo takes out a magic cigarette. One puff, and he'll be filled with confidence. Big G is gradually affected by the magic item. He shoves the shop manager aside, then roughly pins the customer down. Amidst the customer's shouts and screams, he finishes the shave. In the end, the customer is extremely satisfied. The other barbers can't believe their eyes. Big G hurries upstairs to thank Moguro Fukuzo, only to find a pack of cigarettes and a note with encouraging words. This man is already 30 years old, but he has never been in a relationship. Alone, he goes to a bar to drown his sorrows in drinks. The bartender tries to set him up with someone, but when the girls see Shuta's old-fashioned look, they can't help but laugh out loud. The bartender can do nothing about it either. However, Moguro Fukuzo takes an interest in him and decides to help Shoyuta. Moguro Fukuzo figures out Shuta's problem at a glance. Even if a girl is average-looking, she can improve her appearance with makeup, and men can also become popular through proper styling. In a remote corner, a beautician is introducing their services. The shop recommended by Moguro Fukuzo is definitely exceptionally effective. The next day, Shoyuta becomes full of confidence. His colleagues are all surprised by his transformation. Katomi also keeps stealing glances at Shoyuta. Just then, the phone rings suddenly. It's Shoyuta inviting her to dinner. The two have a great chat. Later, Moguro Fukuzo expresses his blessings to Shoyuta, but he warns him, being too popular can also bring troubles. At the bar, Shoyuta sees the same girls from before. He recalled his previous encounter and decides he has to fight back. Now, Shoyuta is extremely charming, and the girls can't help but be captivated by him. They get to know each other because of this. The next day, Katomi hands Shoyuta a document, but the content inside is actually an invitation to dinner with Shoyuta. The two go on another date. However, Katomi directly takes out a key. She has already booked a room at this hotel. The two officially confirm their relationship. They spend a happy night together at the hotel. The next day, they exchange secret glances at the office, but by the afternoon, Shoyuta starts to regret it. He finally has an attractive appearance, and he isn't ready to settle down yet. On his way home, he runs into the girl from the bar. She asks him to have dinner together. How could he refuse such a good offer? But Moguro Fukuzo tells Katomi everything about this. Shoyuta is chatting happily with the girl when Katomi bursts in and splashes red wine on his face. At this moment, Katomi is extremely angry. She doesn't give Shoyuta a chance to explain and beats him up severely. The vacant lot that accompanied Nobi throughout his childhood is going to be demolished today. Watching the concrete pipes filled with his childhood memories about to be destroyed by bulldozers, Nobi acted on impulse and stood right in front of them. This foolish act immediately annoyed the construction crew. Fortunately, at the critical moment, Moguro Fukuzo drove a large crane and rescued Nobi. Looking at the man who looked like a devil in front of him, Nobi poured out the emptiness in his heart. Now, with the development of the city, the childhood memories belonging to their generation are slowly being erased. After listening, Moguro Fukuzo Fukuzo expressed full agreement and decided to grant his wish. Nobi was originally a financial manager of a company, handling all the company's expenses every day. He never expected Moguro Fukuzo to be telling the truth. There really was a vacant lot on the roof of a building. It was said that this place was only open to people with a childlike heart. Bringing any dirty or contaminated things from the adult world was strictly prohibited. There were not only various childhood clothes and toys here, but also many people like Nobi playing here. At Nobi's command, it felt like he had really returned to his childhood, becoming the leader of the kids. In his secret base, the concrete pipe, Nobi also met Shizuka with braids. After some conversation, Nobi felt the thrill of first love. Amidst the glitz and glamour of the adult world, who would have thought that on the roof of a tall building, there was such a pure sanctuary? This not only made Nobi more and more optimistic, but he also lost all interest in the hostesses soliciting customers on the street. However, the next second, Nobi realized that the person stopping him was actually his good friend Shizuka from the roof. Nobi couldn't believe that the innocent Shizuka had become a hostess charging 5,000 yen per session. But when he heard that Shizuka had a sick mother at home, a mentally challenged younger brother, and her father had run away, Nobi wanted to help her. So he used his identity as a financial manager to secretly alter the company's financial statements. He planned to meet Shizuka at the concrete pipe secret base, unaware that because of his good intentions, he was no longer qualified to come to this vacant lot. The kind Moguro Fukuzo only wanted to warn Nobi, but the adult world would not give Nobi another chance. As the construction vehicles entered the site, this pure land was also about to be demolished, and Shizuka, whom he had been thinking about day and night, was sitting in the passenger seat of another man's luxury car at that moment. Kenichi, who was over 30, finally got married, but his married life wasn't very happy. Since both of them had jobs, he needed to share the housework, but Kenichi couldn't do anything. He even messed up simple tasks like sweeping the floor. This led to disharmony in their married life. Moguro Fukuzo introduced Kenichi to a men's virtue academy, where they offered the most detailed housework training. A week later, Yoshiko was shocked by the neatness of their home when she got off work. Not only that, the food was even surprisingly delicious. When she heard that Kenichi had specially attended the men's virtue academy, Yoshiko was deeply moved. The two stayed up all night to work on their plan to have a baby. Kenichi was very grateful to Moguro Fukuzo and also enjoyed the feeling of doing housework. But Moguro Fukuzo reminded him not to get addicted to it. Kenichi said he was a man after all, and his focus would definitely be on his work. Later, Yoshiko was promoted to section chief, all thanks to Kenichi sharing the housework. When Kenichi heard the news, he put even more effort into cooking. The next day, Kenichi seemed listless at work. It was because his wife had been really busy since her promotion, so he had been doing all the housework lately. So Kenichi planned to quit his job and become a house husband. After that, Yoshiko got busier and busier, while Kenichi became more and more capable at housework. He even successfully became a class representative at the men's virtue academy. This strange situation made Yoshiko feel creepy. In the afternoon, Kenichi was happily shopping at the supermarket when Moguro Fukuzo suddenly appeared. The current situation was not optimistic, and he wanted Kenichi to become a full-time house husband once and for all. Time passed quickly, and a few months later, Kenichi's belly was bulging high. He was actually pregnant. The man works hard all day, and when they get home, they don't even have the right to take a shower. All because the sound of bathing would disturb his son who was studying for exams. Even speaking a little louder at home would make his son unhappy. Living in a family like this, it seemed his days ahead would be void of joy. To fill the emptiness in his heart, Shoyuta found Moguro Fukuzo. Now, Shoyuta could no longer feel the joy of coming home. So Moguro Fukuzo gave him something he could pour his love into. A potted flower called Cattleya. It was a type of orchid. Beautiful and large bloomed, it was even known as the Queen of Orchids. And most importantly, it was given to Shoyuta for free. Back home, facing his wife and child who showed him no affection, Shoyuta had long become numb. To rediscover the joy of coming home, he followed Moguro Fukuzo's instructions and decided to care for this Cattleya with love. On warm days, he let it absorb sunlight. In the evening, he watered it promptly, and closing the windows at night was a must, for the late-night breeze was harmful to it. From then on, Shoyuta had something to look forward to after work, and a smile finally appeared on his gloomy face. Now, the flower would bloom in just 2.5 days. But this time, when he got home, he found the window hadn't been closed. This made Shoyuta lose his temper with his wife. However, his wife was even angrier than him. With no authority in the family, Shoyuta could only hold back his anger. Unexpectedly, before long, his wife came to apologize unusually. She even told him to go take a bath and eat. After bathing, Shoyuta didn't notice at all the eerie look on his wife's face. When he had eaten half of the food in front of him, his wife finally said coldly, "This was made with your favorite thing." Finally, Shoyuta broke down completely. He cried alone in the park at night. Then Moguro Fukuzo appeared. Seeing him, Shoyuta immediately poured out his grievance. grievances. The flower was about to bloom, but now I've eaten it myself. It was indeed a pity for him to have such a wife, but he had broken his promise to Moguro Fukuzo, and he still had to be punished for that. This is the first time Moguro Fukuzo has been so seriously injured, all because the man in front of him is too clumsy. And when Moguro Fukuzo removes the tumor, the camera finally pans to a no ball game sign nearby. It turns out Yuto is a fanatical golf enthusiast, but ever since he took up golf over a decade ago, Yuto has always finished last in every game he plays. Yet even though he doesn't enjoy it, he's still deeply obsessed with it. His wife wants Yuto to spend more time with her, but Yuto remains obsessed with golf. In preparation for an upcoming tournament, he even goes to the park to practice late at night, which leads to the incident where he accidentally injures Moguro Fukuzo. After seeing the emptiness in Yuto's heart, Moguro Fukuzo has a custom golf club made for Yuto the next day. Its bizarre design immediately draws everyone's attention, and with Moguro Fukuzo's magic, Yuto's golf skills instantly rival those of a professional player. Under the stunned gaze of everyone, the enchanted club helps Yuto get a hole-in-one. This amazing experience finally lets Yuto feel the joy of playing golf. He thinks back to the moment he got the hole-in-one, and how the department head still couldn't accept it. Yuto doesn't get to enjoy the happiness for long, as Moguro Fukuzo soon offers a warning. This club is custom-made specifically for him, and he must never let anyone else use it. Otherwise, what might happen is even beyond Moguro Fukuzo's ability to predict. Then, in another tournament, Yuto gets another hole-in-one, stealing the spotlight completely. A disgruntled opponent suspects something is off, and insists on using Yuto's club for a swing. But Moguro Fukuzo's warning echoes in Yuto's mind, so Yuto reluctantly refuses. However, the department head uses a provocative tactic. He claims Yuto's skill comes entirely from the club, and Yuto himself is still a novice. The provocation works. The department head gets the club as he wishes, but when he swings to hit the ball doesn't even leave the tee. This is an utter embarrassment for the department head. At the same time, Yuto has broken his promise to Moguro Fukuzo. Moguro Fukuzo's face seems to slowly appear on the club. Then, in the next moment, the hit ball flies eerily into the depths of the forest. When Yuto runs over to check, he finds the golf ball has hit a burly man right on the head. How great is it to be single in middle age? Even though his house is a total mess, the freedom and ease make up for it. All his colleagues are tightly controlled by their wives, but Shota gets to hang out with attractive women every day. Unfortunately, the woman he's with tonight isn't interested in a follow-up date, so Shota has to go home early. Strangely enough, his house is spotlessly clean when he gets back, and there's a hearty dinner on the table. Just then, a woman suddenly appears. She's a housekeeper introduced by Moguro Fukuzo. Shota then remembers the weird salesman he met last night, but he never agreed to hire a housekeeper. Shota refuses to let anyone ruin his single life, but it's the middle of the night and the woman and her daughter have nowhere else to stay. In the end, Shota decides to let them stay for the night. The next morning, Shota is woken up by the smell of food. His usual breakfast is just bread and milk. He hasn't had such a hearty breakfast in a long time. Every corner of the house is neatly taken care of by the housekeeper. His colleagues are all amazed at how energetic Shota looks lately, but by nightfall, the housekeeper leaves after making a table of dinner. After all, Shota only let her stay for one night. While eating, he suddenly spots Moguro Fukuzo's business card. Having tasted the benefits, Shota goes to find Moguro Fukuzo. Of course Moguro Fukuzo can get the housekeeper back, but he makes Shota promise not to develop feelings for her. After that, Shota lives a comfortable life. However, alcohol always unlocks the desires in people's hearts. Shota still confesses his feelings to the housekeeper. Moguro Fukuzo's punishment arrives in no time. It turns out there's another man hiding in the house, who is the housekeeper's husband. This is a carefully planned honey trap, and the man's goal is to live here permanently. As if that's not enough, Shota's ex-wife runs off with another man, and custody of their children falls back to him. In just a few days, Shota's single life comes to an end forever. An old man living in such a shabby room is actually offering a high part-time salary of 40,000 yen a day, and the job is as simple as going out to play on his behalf. The old man wants to go out and have fun while he's still alive, but his body won't allow it, so he wants to hire someone to travel for him, then come back and tell him all the happy things. Shinsuke says he doesn't have enough money left for traveling. The old man quickly takes out 3 million yen and counts out 100,000 yen. After deducting the daily salary, the rest will be used as travel expenses. A few days ago, Shinsuke lost 40,000 yen playing mahjong. While he was worrying about this, Moguro Fukuzo handed him a part-time job manual. The remuneration in it was absurdly high, so Shinsuke took this easy, high-paying job. He plans to first pay off his gambling debts. His friends are all shocked. Shinsuke pulls out the remaining money to show off, saying he wants to bet bigger next time, but 2 of his friends dare not bet that much. Just then, 3 gangsters arrive. They are very interested in this gambling game, and in just one round, they clean out all of Shinsuke's suitcase chips. To make things worse, the gangsters arbitrarily multiply the stakes by 10. Even if Shinsuke takes out all his remaining money, it's not enough. Under the three men's threats, Shinsuke takes them to find the old man he met that day. But no matter how hard he knocks, there's no answer. The aunt next door tells him nobody has lived here for half a year. Shinsuke feels like he's encountered a ghost. In the bar, Moguro Fukuzo pays the old man the 100,000 yen part-time fee. The old man returns the 3 million yen, but he's confused. What exactly is Moguro Fukuzo getting out of doing this? This is what meat looks like in the eyes of a vegetarian. Its heavy greasiness makes it almost inedible. Yet Yamato even started tasting raw meat. The meat sizzled as it hit the grill. Shota glanced back, and it seemed like each slice of meat was moaning in agony. His friends around him kept making chewing sounds, even putting pieces of bloody, undercooked meat into their mouths. Thankfully, the restaurant served rice water. Just as Shota was about to start eating, a piece of grilled meat was placed in front of him. Yamato tried to force-feed him the meat, but a lifelong habit couldn't be changed that easily. Seeming to feel he'd lost face, Yamato decides to teach Shota a lesson. At that moment, Mikoto stepped in to stop him, like a hen protecting her chicks. Back home that night, Shota thought back to what had happened with Mikoto that day. The way she'd protected him, just like a hen, was truly beautiful. Yet Yamato had tried to force him to eat something so disgusting. Just thinking about it made Shota gag. He suddenly noticed a doll on the table, a leftover from a salesman named Moguro Fukuzo. All you had to do was stick a photo of your enemy on the doll's face, use a black cat's leg as a prop, and finally use a silver needle to inflict punishment. Whoever was targeted would suffer the same harm. Shota picked up the silver needle, aimed at a spot on the doll, and stabbed it straight into its leg. But just then, Moguro Fukuzo appeared out of nowhere. By using the doll, Shota had turned from a victim into a perpetrator. In today's survival of the fittest society, perpetrators are called winners, while victims are labeled failures. To celebrate Shota's transformation, Moguro Fukuzo brought him something special. Only by eating meat can you become strong, he said. Surprisingly, this meat had no fishy smell at all. It even emitted a fragrance Shota had never smelled before. After just one bite, Shota was conquered by its taste. The next day, Yamato injured his leg. Shota realized the doll had actually worked. He thought such a terrifying thing should be thrown away. But before he knew it, he'd ended up at the door of the barbecue restaurant. Since he was already there, he figured he might as well stay for lunch. But for the first time ever, Shota wanted to order meat. Mikoto was shocked by his change. Yamato, however, had overheard their conversation. After lunch, Shota still found the taste of meat a bit disgusting. Just then, Yamato suddenly spoke to him. He and his colleagues started egging Shota on, urging him to go confess his feelings to Mikoto. Emboldened by their encouragement, Shota decided to be brave. But the person who came to greet him was actually a chubby girl. Yamato said Mikoto had gone on a date with her boyfriend that day, and the chubby girl confirmed it. This dealt a huge blow to Shota's psyche. Yamato's prank had succeeded again. Everyone around them burst into laughter. Shota ran to the river and cried secretly. Moguro Fukuzo appeared at the right moment and told him, to become strong, you must eat meat. Eat meat, and you can change. Shota plunged the silver needle down. Yamato let out a miserable scream. As Shota pressed harder, the harm Yamato suffered grew worse. In the end, Yamato's body gradually wasted away, while Shota, who had learned to eat meat, became stronger.